The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Right. Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back. Retro Rangers in the Zone. The host is George Grimm, and as usual, George, you have a interesting and well-spoken guest. Would you please introduce EJ to us?
Okay, welcome back to the Retro Rangers podcast. We are joined today with Eddie Johnston Jr., who's the CEO of the new Three Ice Hockey League that's going to launch its inaugural season this month in Las Vegas. So, Eddie, tell us something about the Three Ice Hockey League.
Well, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. I really appreciate it. We think we've built a better mousetrap, guys. We think we've got the best part of hockey. In fact, that's our tagline. And it's a full-time, 3-on-3, full-rink ice hockey league. We've got 6 teams. Each team has 6 skaters plus a goalie. We play 2 8-minute halves, running clock, and we play a bracket-style tournament at each one of our tour stops. So all 6 of our teams show up. They play an opening round of 3 games, then 2 semifinals and a championship game. And since the games are only 16 minutes long, it all takes place in the course of just under 3 hours. And so we're really excited about the format. We think we're bringing hair on fire, track meet hockey. It's go, 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 go. And we only have 2 face-offs to start each half. The rest of the time, it is just nonstop action. Our commissioner, Craig Patrick, likes to say it's overtime all the time, and it's pretty fantastic.
Well,
sounds good.
George knows I had no idea Craig Patrick was part of it. I hope you'll send him a tape of this. Craig Patrick and I was an East Bay guy, and we were very well acquainted through Stan Gilbertson when he was a Seals player, and I was an insurance man. So
I love it.
What a name! And we're talking 40 some odd years, and
sure.
To know that you know him, what a great guy, pure and simple.
He's a great man. He's a great hockey mind. We're lucky to have him as our commissioner, and we've got a few Ranger connections. So, Craig's obviously, but Steve Baker is on our team as well, and Steve played 6.5 years for the Rangers and a little bit with the New Jersey Devils as well. So we've got a few nice Rangers connections. So hopefully that dovetails nicely into your subject matter and for your audience.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Let me ask you a little bit about what it was like as a kid to be in the room, as they used to say. You're a kid. Your dad's an NHLer. What was it like?
It was a real treat. Obviously I wasn't in there during any game time, heat of the moment kind of stuff, but the ability to walk around the locker room and be at practices, once in a while step on the ice, and be around world-class winners, guys like Randy Carlyle, who won the Norris Trophy under my dad, or Rick Kehoe, who scored just a ton of goals. And then, of course, later on you get Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr and Kevin Stevens and just name after name after name. And now you've got Crosby and Malkin and Jake Gensel, and just to be around those kinds of guys, to be around those winners. One, I like to think some of that rubbed off on me. You guys can let me know by the end of the interview. But two, just being around winners, you kind of learn what excellence is, or you can just sort of pick up on it. It sort of oozes out of these people that their dedication to their craft, that they're excellent at something. They're in the top 1% of 1%. of something in the world. And they carry themselves differently. They speak differently. You can see, a guy like Jaromir Jagr getting to practice early, staying after practice to shoot, 100 pucks at the far post, 45-degree angle, about 25 feet out, and just snapping them off the inside of the post for a half hour just to get better at the game. It's not an accident that guys in the NHL are in the NHL. And so being around winners, to me, I think is the best part of, quote unquote, being in the room as a kid and growing up and a high schooler and a college kid. And even to a certain extent now, my dad's still employed by the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I'm still in that environment from time to time. And it's just a real treat. It was a great way to grow up.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'm going to turn it to George, but I want to ask you, what one trait did your dad pass along to you that you are just so grateful for, if you would?
Sure. There's a lot of them, but if you force me to pick one, my father's drive in becoming excellent at something. When he became a goalie, there was only 6 people on the planet doing that job. And the idea that he would go after that and dedicate himself to becoming excellent enough to get that position. And then he went on to become a coach when there was only, I think, 20 teams in the league at that point. So only 20 human beings in the planet have that job. And then being a general manager and continuing to grow in his career and pointing himself at something that would seemingly be impossible, or statistically just probably not a great bet. But my father's drive and determination, that to me, he's phrased it in a bunch of different ways. I sort of picked up on it through osmosis. But, we've always talked about one of the biggest things he's imparted upon me was whenever you get knocked down, make sure you get back up. And whether that's metaphorically or literally, that sort of translated nicely for me in my life and allowed me to sort of say, it's possible. Whatever my goals and dreams are, it's possible. And I really learned that from my father. So I think hopefully I picked one trait and nailed the question for you.
You certainly did, my friend. George, take it.
Okay, who actually came up with the idea of the Three Eyes League, of the 3-on-3?
Yeah, it's kind of my brainchild. I was sitting around one day watching the 3-on-3 NHL overtime have its success. I was at the Pittsburgh Penguins rookie camp, watching them finish up with a 3-on-3 tournament. I went to the New Jersey Devils rookie camp and saw the same thing, and watching fans packing their practice facilities, oohing and awing over these unknown players, just putting on an absolute clinic. I was sitting there one day at the Penguins camp with Jimmy Rutherford and Billy Guerin and the head of scouting and my father, and just sort of picking at the scouts, saying, what are you looking for? And the adjectives just leapt off the page. Things like skill, speed, rapport, risk-taking, great hands, creativity, hockey IQ. And it just seemed like just a great cocktail of adjectives. And I'm watching the fans oohing and awing over these guys, and you've got the success of the 3-on-3 format in the NHL. You've got Big 3 basketball. Rugby Sevens is a sort of more snackable version of rugby. Formula E is a more snackable version of Formula One. And a good colleague of mine, a friend of mine in India, helped launch the Indian Premier League, which is a short-form version of cricket, which is just absolutely taken off. The league is worth $15 or $16 billion at this point, guys. I think they sold 2 new franchises for $700 million US each as the entry fees. So these snackable leagues around the world having success, the proof of concept with the NHL, it was just a perfect moment. It just clicked in my mind. I went home that night and was talking with my dad about it, and the Big 3 basketball league is on television, and we just started noodling around this idea. And it took me about a month to write the business model, and then I took about a year to poke holes in it with various constituencies. Pretty much everybody that would touch this, fans, agents, television network executives, sports executives, players, guys like Brian Trottier were early on in the process. I was lucky enough to be able to take him to lunch and pick his brain, and Craig Patrick and my dad and executives in all these different categories to make sure that I wasn't imagining what I thought was an excellent idea. And after about a year, I knew I had something special, and I put my foot on the gas, and away we went.
Good. Wow. Okay, now how about the players? Where have they been coming from? basically? Are they college kids? Are they junior or what?
We literally have every league on the planet represented. AHL, ECHL, NCAA, U Sports in Canada, every single European league, the KHL, the German league, the Swiss league, the French, you name it. Every single league, somebody has played in these. And so our guys we've got three profiles. We've got in no particular order, the ex-NHLer, that's probably anywhere from 30 to 35, 36 years of age, can still fly, has got great mittens. And then the next guy down is probably the North American that's overseas playing in those European leagues, looking to come back home to either extend his career or showcase his talents all summer long and go back to Europe and say, hey, guys, look what I did in 3-ice. And then the third player profile is what we call the young guns, which is those college kids, guys that are stepping out of university in the last 60 days to a year or so. And it's about a third. I think 35% of our league played in the NHL, and about 30% are college kids, and the rest are all professionals. So we've got about 70% pros and some guys playing hockey for a paycheck for the first time in their lives. But they're all fast. They've all got great hands. They play that tic-tac-toe track meet hockey. It is perfect. We've got a bunch of Ferraris and Maseratis zipping around the ice out there. It's excellent stuff, guys.
Okay. What's the average payroll for your teams?
Yeah, so we've got a very interesting model. We've got prize money. So similar to what the PGA Tour does, where the more you win, the more you earn, we've built that model. So we've got just over $2.2 million in prize money, roughly $1 million in change over our regular season, which is our first 8 Saturdays. And then the top 4 teams based on a point system will compete on our 9th event, and that's for roughly $1 million, about $1.1 million there. And the top guys in this league, the guys that win it, they'll probably make somewhere between $150,000 and $170,000 US. And then you've got basically a waterfall down from there, from 2nd place to 6th place. So the top guys for a 10-week season will be making, let's just call it $160,000 seems to be the target. It's a pretty exceptional opportunity to have real meaningful income for basically your summertime. And then you can go back into the AHL, the NHL. You can go wherever you want because our season ends in August, and then camps start in Europe in the middle of August, and here in North America at the beginning of September.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, this sounds very exciting.
Well, good. I agree.
Pure and simple. You mentioned poking holes. Were there any holes that you had to fill that were called to your attention?
The only holes I would say is, as a leader, I like to think that I know what my strengths are, and I like to know what my weaknesses are. So where I knew I didn't have the skill set or the expertise or the connections, I made sure that those were the most important hires I made. I think any company, any CEO or executive will tell you the most important asset that belongs in any organization or any company is its people. And so for me, I went and made sure I plugged those holes with people who had the expertise and the know-how and the connections to help get us across the goal line on those. So really the business model that I wrote 3.5, almost 4 years ago at this point is about 90+% of what it is today. We've probably tightened it up and polished up about 10+%, but really it's pretty close. And then plugging and playing the right people. That was the most important thing for me.
Okay.
Wow.
How about the referees? Any idea?
We've got Craig Patrick has been excellent on a lot of fronts. So Craig was very, very helpful on the player side, very helpful on what I'll call the locker room staff. We've got guys that worked at the Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins, Steve Lattin, Doug Shearer, Greg Smith, Smitty. We've got some great guys that Craig tracked down. But on the referee side, Dave Jackson is our head of officiating. And so Dave, as you probably well know, you see him on the ESPN broadcast when there's a funky call. They appeal to Dave, and he breaks it down for them as to why it was called the way it was. But Dave's our head of officiating, and he's tracked down about 10 really great referees for us, and we're going to use them on a rotating basis. So 4 will be at each one of our tour stops, and we'll just rotate 3 or 4 guys through the entire evening. Again, it takes place over the course of 3 hours, and so we want to make sure these guys are staying fresh. But yeah, Dave Jackson has been fantastic in that capacity for us.
EJ,
and you have for ESPN and ABC have a contract, right?
That's right. So we've got in the States, we've got CBS as our partner and CBS Sports Network. In Canada, we've got TSN and RDS for both English and French language in the Canadian territory. And then we've got ESPN International in another 183 countries. So we are 185 countries from day one. We are the second largest hockey league on the planet from a television footprint standpoint, which is saying something. We'll be in potentially, several million households every single broadcast, and we're really excited. They're all great partners. They all immediately got it. They bought it in the room, as we say in television. You make the pitch. They're in the conference room. They say, yep, we get it. We like it. And then it was just a matter of papering the deals. But all of our partners are big believers in what we're doing. They immediately understood what the game was. They could see it in their mind's eye, and they jumped on it. We're excited about these partnerships with those networks.
Okay, good. Okay, Ralph, go ahead.
I was just going to say, would you make available to our audience, EJ, your official website so they can accept no substitutes, as it were?
Absolutely. So it's very simple. It's 3ice.com. 3 like the letter, it's 3 like the number, and then the letters ICE. So 3ice.com. And you can get tickets there. You can get merchandise. In fact, today we just launched our coaches collection. We've got a great series of T-shirts that we've built around each one of our coaches. They're all Hall of Famers. And depending on your age demographic that's listening to this, they'll get names like Brian Trottier, Guy Carbonneau, Grant Fuhr, Larry Murphy, Joey Mullen. It's just fantastic. John LeClaire, if I didn't mention him. But 6 Hall of Fame coaches. Grant Fuhr is one of my favorites in there. He was one of our first guys that said yes. And 3ice.com, you can go on and click and get tickets for any one of our tour stops. We start off in Las Vegas, and we finish in Las Vegas. And in between that, we're in places like Denver, Grand Rapids, Hershey, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, London, Ontario, Quebec City, Nashville. We're playing in the NHL buildings in Pittsburgh and Nashville. We're playing in AHL buildings in places like Grand Rapids and Hershey. We've got one college arena in Denver, which is where Craig Patrick was the athletic director, also won 2 national championships as a player. So we tipped our hat to the college game. And we just love Vegas. We're in an AHL building there where the Silver Knights used to play. And we just love it as a brand. Sports betting will be a big thing for us, but it's just a wonderful hockey town now, and it's a great capital of entertainment. So we really like the Vegas vibe and what it says about our brand.
Well, can folks actually communicate with you, being so articulate and on this website? Is there a way that you could interact with them?
Well, I'll tell you, I touch base. I follow pretty much all of our social media channels on a daily basis. So if anybody chimes in on those, you'd see my handle, which is the EJ, THEEJ, and I'm in there. So I chirp in all the time. So if somebody says something witty or clever, I usually pile on, or some of our players put out some content of them training. You'll see me chirping at them, and usually in a good way, sometimes in a funny way. Mm-hmm. But if you log on to any of our social media channels, which is pretty much for every channel is at 3ice Hockey, you can find us, and you'll see me in the thread a lot of the times.
Beautiful. Would you be good enough to befriend us on Facebook, or we will and we will send you a link to this interview, which should be published in a day or so. And I am thrilled to meet you. How about that?
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I'll do you one better. I'll absolutely friend you on Facebook. And what I can do is send you a discount code for all of your listeners and followers. And you can share that with them, and they can go online and get a discount courtesy of Ralph and George in this interview process. So I'll make sure we get that connected for you. And again, they can Go to 3ice.com and buy a ticket for any event that they want.
Beautiful.
Yeah. The Three Eyes website, you can buy all your tickets from there, right?
That's right. So every single one of our events is live. It's been live for about a month and a half. You can buy merchandise in our shop. But, yes, our tickets, Vegas, we drop the puck on June 18th. That's our first event. It's a great destination for obvious reasons to go there. But otherwise, if we're in your local area, if you're in Denver, anywhere in the Colorado area, you could probably come into Denver in probably a 2 to 3 hour drive. London, Ontario, we're kind of centrally located for all of that province. Hershey, we're right in the middle of the state. Pittsburgh, we're in the corner of the state. So we've tried to pick great hockey markets that have a great fan base, but also geographically positioned well. So, if you're in D.C., you can zip up to Hershey in 2 hours. If you're in Philadelphia, you can zip over to Hershey in 2 hours. And we wanted to have a tip of the cap to the French Canadians. My father's from Montreal, so I'm a big fan of the Quebecois culture. So we picked Quebec City for our stop in that province. And we can't wait. It's a great hockey market. They're really, really hungry for big league product, and we can't wait to deliver to them.
Hey, EJ, one more thing. If your dad was sitting here and I asked him what was his greatest moment in hockey, how do you think he'd answer?
Oh, boy. I think, quite honestly, winning cups is an easy answer. If it's different than that, I'd be surprised. I know that he really enjoyed his 72 Summit Series against the Russians. He thought that was a really incredible experience. He said it was pressure-packed, and he does not use the word fun for that experience, but it was very meaningful, I would say. But I think without question, winning Stanley Cups is probably his greatest moment in hockey. My dad just absolutely loved competing. He competes in pretty much everything he does. He's a hell of a golfer still, and winning at the highest level, I think, is probably an easy answer for my dad to give you guys.
Okay, I said one more question, but if it weren't for hockey, what would be your passion?
Oh, that's a great question. So I've had a very diverse and interesting career, at least I think so. I started out in advertising, and then I moved over to selling media. And then I went to work for a big sports marketing agency, IMG, but in their fashion space. And I built out events, New York City Fashion Week, LA Fashion Week, and consulted to most of the fashion weeks around the world. And then I went out to Hollywood, and I made television shows. I was an executive producer and a writer for what we call big, shiny floor reality TV shows and scripted shows. So I think I'd be in media. To me, Three Ice is kind of a perfect storm of content creation, event production, media, and just general sports entertainment. So it's kind of a perfect storm of all my skill sets. So if I wasn't doing Three Ice, which I like to say is a phone-first media company in the shape of a hockey league, I'd probably be in the media space. But I love sports, so it'd probably be doing something around sports and content creation. But to me, it's just a perfect marriage of all my personal passions, my upbringing, my skill set, and I'm still a hockey junkie. I watch high school, college, NHL playoffs. I'll be watching the game tonight. I play roller hockey still. So I'm kind of a hockey junkie. So it's a perfect storm of my passions and skill sets.
Beautiful. Hey, thank you for letting us get to know you in a way that was special.
Oh, well, thank you guys. It was a real treat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks
All right.
for being on.
I'm going to wrap it up.
Good luck with the league. Hope it works out. I'll be watching. I know that. So.
Oh, terrific, guys. I appreciate that.
All right.
Beautiful. I'll be following too, and thank you again. It's the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The show is Retro Rangers in the Zone. The host is George Grimm. I'm Ralph Tyko, the weak link of it all. And I'd just like you to tune in. We're on all of our shows. There are some 3,000 offerings that we've had. mostly sports, and they're all archived on Comfortably Zoned on YouTube. So look for it, and thanks for listening. Thanks for everything. These are tough times. Stay well, everybody, and adios and happy trails.
Hang in there.
Thanks, guys.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.